Hey guys, so first of all, I just wanted to say if you were subscribed to my Esther Hicks YouTube channel, I decided to delete it because I just realized I was putting time and effort into something that I really didn't have control over. Esther Hicks has the copyright to that stuff, and while she allows people to use her stuff for the purpose I was using it for, she also has the right to just like pull the plug on it at any time. So I just kind of decided I was having fun with it, but I just decided I didn't really want to do that. So it is no more. It was fun while it lasted though. But the other thing I wanted to talk about is the reason why in a previous video I said I didn't want to recommend the book Busting Loose from the Money Game, which I've been talking about a little bit here and there because it happened to just kind of appear in my life via a kind messenger in the comments, and I read it and I don't know why, and it was sort of just like it contained like the next couple of sentences I needed to read in order to continue forward on this journey out of the illusion, if you want to put it that way. But I wanted to talk about why I don't recommend it, or why I said I don't recommend it, which is not to say you shouldn't read it. I'm just, while I would recommend a book like The 7 Spiritual Laws of Success by Deepak Chopra, or The 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz, or, The Science of Getting Rich, which I made the audio series of that, which is linked below. Those I think are all really, I don't think they contain anything in them which could be considered scary for anybody. They're not fear-inducing, I don't think. That's not my perception of them. Pretty much anyone at any place in their life could potentially benefit from reading any of those books. So I would recommend those to pretty much anybody. But this book, Busting Loose from the Money Game, it's... as I saw from the comments on the video I made about the concept of the purge, which was brought to me by an emailer who had read that little part of Busting Loose from the Money Game, where this guy basically says, what's going to happen is weird things are going to show up for you to have to deal with and apply this process that he has in the book to. I think it's I don't want to say advanced, but it's like, unless you're at the point where that seems appealing, because what you really want is to be free from the illusion, then, that has the potential to be scary or upsetting or confusing, and that is not what anybody needs. So I don't want to recommend just the average person read this book. One of the things that So basically in this book, the author divides life, the game of life as he refers to it as phase 1, phase 2, and then what's beyond that. And phase 1 is where the vast majority of everyone is in some form. You're either in the world believing it's completely real and that you have no control and just surviving the best you can, or you're also, you're still in the 3D world, but you've gotten to the point where you want to use like law of attraction, law of assumption, whatever you want to call it, to manipulate the physical world. Basically, you're still in it, and you're still interested in everything that's in it, and you're still pretty much viewing it as real enough to care about it a lot. And so that's all phase 1. And this book is about phase 2, which is where you either start to embrace the concept intellectually that this isn't real, and so thus it doesn't, these are my words, thus it doesn't have the meaning that you've been giving it. Or in my case, you have a revelation. You have a moment of understanding that didn't come from you or your intellect. That's what happened to me at the end of 2019. So basically, I just in an instant knew that I was creating all of this. I was still, that was the very start of what this guy describes as phase 2 for me. There was no intention there for that to happen, and I was still very much interested in certain aspects of the physical world. And it wasn't until about 6 months after that that I started to really, I don't know, change my mind about that. And it wasn't until like not even 3 weeks ago that, maybe a month, I don't know, the beginning when I said I was going to start doing this for 30 days, I was going to prioritize above everything else, staying in the highest possible creative state that I could. I would call it the highest possible vibration, because I know that everybody hates that term, but that's what it feels like to me. It's where everything feels like as light as it possibly can. It wasn't really until, I'm not sure which came first, the chicken or the egg. I think I wanted to do that because I was already sort of getting into this place, but it wasn't until then that I started really wanting to completely see, I wanted to remove myself from the illusion while still being in it, essentially, if that makes sense. But so, that's what the guy is talking about when he's talking about phase 2 in this book, where you bust loose from the game. You begin to view it differently, permanently, as the objective. And so part of this process that the author is talking about is dropping all of your 3D world agendas during this time where you exercise the mentality of this not being real, which boils down to anytime you feel discomfort or anxiety or anything of that nature, you apply this process of remembering that it isn't real and understanding that you are empowering something that is showing up in your unreal world, in your hologram, in your illusion. You're empowering something that you don't like by having this judgment or reaction to it that's causing these unpleasant emotions. And so whenever you feel those unpleasant emotions, you stop and you remember that this isn't real, remember that you made it up, and you, whatever way you come up with to do this, you take your power back from that thing. And for me, this has been an interesting, I've had to sort of figure this out. I know what the end state feels like. It feels like no longer feeling tense or uncomfortable about whatever the thing is. And so for me, I have a visualization of sort of like sucking, like my World of Warcraft warlock has the ability to siphon life from things, and it's just like she just like has this green like slime bolt coming out of a person into her hand. She just sucks it out of them. So that's kind of how I visualize it. In a way, I just kind of visualize my whole self sucking all of the life out of whatever this idea is that I've been energizing, that when something appears in my reality that rubs that idea, then I get upset. I just suck the power from that visually in my mind. Or there have been a couple times where I've had to just sort of set aside the whole this is an illusion thing and reason with myself about why whatever my perception is about this thing is wrong. So I've had to take a couple different approaches to this, but all with the same end result of returning to the state of awareness that this is not real, which for me is a very blissful feeling. Because whatever is supporting the illusion is something that I have already decided and experienced is very, very good. So there's no worries there. I'm not afraid of what's behind the illusion at all. So dispelling the illusion is a good thing for me. So I know when I've done this properly, effectively, when I have returned to a state of peace about whatever the thing was that was just bothering me. And I've been doing this with everything. I mean, if there's something that even has a little bit of discomfort that normally would have just passed in 30 seconds, I stop and I suck the life out of that thing. Just doing this over and over and over again. And one of the things that's been really difficult about this, that I think is difficult for everyone about this, and that many people are not at all ready to even start to approach, is this giving up of all your 3D world agendas, where you don't do this in order to change something. It's very difficult to do that. It's basically like untethering yourself from the world and just floating off into an unknown. You know, the world, the illusion is glued together. I think he even uses that phrase in the book, glue, you know. It's this reality illusion is glued together by your judgments and agendas, what it is that you're, you know, doing here. And when you let those go, I'm sorry, like, just most people are just not ready for that. They're just not. And you know, these are concepts that are still pretty out there for a lot of people. And so thus, I think it could be hard to find, like, if you need some support within your illusion, I think it could be hard to find that and not feel totally freaked out and scared and alone about. So that's why I don't recommend the book, because I think even if so, for me, I want this. I want to be completely free of the illusion. I don't want my 3D world to turn into the thing that would support whatever my agenda is in the illusion. I want to be free of the whole thing. This started off as just wanting to be free of things I had going on with myself, with my physical self, judgments about my physical self. But it quickly became clear to me that the judgments and stuff I have about my physical self were just like a smokescreen. It's always like this, dude. Whenever there's like a huge important thing, it's just masking something. It seems like it is totally about the thing. It never is. It's always about some other thing, some other twisted idea that you have wrong. That quickly turned into, when I started to embrace, like, I want to be free of this, I don't care what that means, it quickly turned into, I want to be free of the whole illusion. And therefore I understood these ideas and judgments that I have about myself physically, they're the glue that is holding this entire illusion together. That's the area where all of my judgments still are. And so, yeah, this has been the challenge for me, is not having an agenda about that. It just wants to work its way back in. It's like, that's been the biggest thing for me, that's been the hardest thing for me, the scariest thing for me throughout purposely doing this for like the last however long it's been, is working this process of dispelling the illusion without then working an agenda into it, without then saying, without saying, I'm doing this in order to get something in the illusion. You can't dispel the illusion in order to have something in the illusion be real. I hope that's obvious why you can't do that. You can't, you'll prevent yourself from dispelling the illusion by hanging on to something that you are, that you created in the illusion. It's not like, and this is what I have to keep telling myself, it's not like you go poof and disappear, obviously. You don't just, I no longer see the illusion as the illusion, therefore now I fly off into outer space or something. It's just a different way of being present, conscious, aware. It's just a different, it doesn't, you're still here. And it's not like this means there's nothing to enjoy within the illusion. In fact, what it means is that there is nothing but things to enjoy in the illusion, because the illusion is not real and you can choose to experience joy there. That's what it really comes down to. But, that as an intellectual concept, and that as something you actually feel as true or are experiencing as true, are two totally different things. So getting from point A to point B with that is really that's been for me what's scary. And that's why I don't think most people are ready for that. Just because of the level of fear that it brings up. And fear is the thing that is fucking everything up for everyone. Fear is the illusion that is the thing that is fucking everything up for everyone. It's the thing I want nothing, I don't want anything to do with producing fear in anyone else. So, that is why I didn't recommend that book. And that is what is going on. And I think most people are just not ready to drop their 3D world agendas. They want the things they want, and that's totally fine. It's like a road leading, all paths lead to God. Everything is eventually going to lead to the good thing. And, whatever you go through in your illusion will eventually lead you to dispelling the illusion, no matter when that is. And so it's all good. And there's no reason to try to be somewhere that you're not, is what I'm saying. Which is another thing that can be hard to accept. Everybody wants to be somewhere that they're not. So, that's what I've been experiencing with the process of going through that, sort of addressing everything that comes up, all discomfort, I guess would be the right word. And it's a lot easier to do that from a point where you're prioritizing staying in this really high state, because it just becomes super obvious then when something's subtle that you might not have noticed if you were in a lower vibe, in a worse mood, I guess. There are things that you wouldn't even notice, that from this state that feels amazing, that just feels, I wouldn't call it happy exactly, it just feels really like elated, it feels really light. It becomes obvious when even the smallest discomfort comes up, and then it, stands out like a sore thumb, and you can address it. But I was going to make another video, but I'm just going to continue to talk. I was thinking this morning also about a couple of other things. And one of those things was, talking about the illusion. I think this is a concept that's also really hard for people to grasp, that this is an illusion. Scientifically speaking, there are some provable things and some theories that look really good that point to this all being a hologram. So it's not that out there, even from a scientific standpoint. Beyond the understanding of that scientifically, I don't think a lot of meaning has been determined. Where is it coming from? How is it being produced? All of that. I don't think we're really onto that scientifically at this point. But if you just think about where you are experiencing everything, where are you 99% of the time? Where is the average person 99% of the time? In the past, in the future, or asleep and dreaming, unconscious? That's where people are. Almost no one is just present right now, not in one of those three other places. And if you think about where you are, this morning when I woke up, I was, for some reason, my mind drifted to a big family event that I have coming up that I don't know if I'm going to attend, but I think I'm going to in December. And it brought me back to the last time I had a big family event with this same group of people, which was almost 2 years ago. And I was thinking about the future. I was imagining the future, and I was imagining the past. I was back there in that scene, kind of thinking about the things that went down and thinking about the people that were there. And I returned to the present moment, and I thought, wow, I was literally just existing consciously in an illusion, in something that wasn't real, but that I was experiencing as real. Visually also, that was the thing. I don't know about for other people, but for me, it's very visual. I have a really good recollection of what everything looked like at this previous event and everything. And I just realized, this is, even if this weren't a hologram, this reality, this 3D physical world reality that we're looking at, even if it weren't a hologram, most people spend their time living in an imaginary world anyway, whether it's your dream world or your past or your future. They don't exist. They're not here right now. The only thing that's here that's actually real is what you're looking at in front of you, and even that's not real. So I don't know, maybe thinking about it that way, maybe thinking about how much time you spend living in a visual world that is not the one that is right in front of you, while conscious even most of the time, maybe that can draw the parallel so that stops seeming like such a far out concept. Because I think if you're getting into manifestation, if you're reading Neville Goddard, or you're getting into any of that stuff as sort of the first thing, or like this isn't something that you've spent a lot of time thinking about or reading about or experiencing firsthand, people get very concerned with how to do it or any of that, and it's really not necessary to be concerned about that. Everything leads you to the understanding of that firsthand, of the illusion. If you can manipulate reality with your mind, it can't be that real. It certainly can't be real in the way that everybody has been believing up until now. And when you learn to control your mind with the intention of manipulating the illusion, it's exercising a muscle. It's exercising your perception. It's exercising your emotions, control. It's basically learning to control yourself. And it's learning to control how you interpret things that appear to happen in your illusion and what appears to be your reality. It's starting to exercise that muscle of having intention and generating a feeling of certainty, or just developing that feeling of certainty over time, and controlling your emotional reactions to what happens, and controlling your emotional reaction in general. It's basically learning to control how you feel. People don't like that for some reason, but that's what it is. It's learning to control how you feel and to generate certain emotions and generate certain experiences within your mind. And what naturally happens is, as you get more and more control over that, as you exercise it more and more, and it becomes easier and more natural for you to just live your life that way, more and more you're naturally in touch with the fact that it's an illusion. And eventually, I think everybody hits a tipping point where it just naturally connects that if I can generate all of this for myself, this can't really be real. And if I can generate all of this for myself, how important can the things that I've been manifesting really be to my experience? Like, it's been an illusion that those things ever were what was creating anything. It was always me creating it, just either using a false hologram illusion prop in order to, because I was under the false notion that I needed this thing in order to have this experience. I think eventually have that connection of, this stuff doesn't mean anything. I don't need this. I can generate my experience entirely by myself. And so then it becomes, I think, at least for me, it becomes getting to a point where you're like 55% of the way there, and you just go, oh God, it's on the other side now. Now I don't want any of this 3D world stuff to have any effect on me at all, because I know it's not real. It still does. I still have this illusion. I'm still buying into this idea that there's something out there that's going to do something for me, even though I know it's not true now. And I think then that's maybe where things start to accelerate a little bit. At some point, I just think the momentum toward dispelling the illusion becomes so great that you don't really care what happens as long as it feeds into that, attaining that goal or having greater vision into whatever that ends up actually meaning. Like, what is this when there's no illusion? Did I make my point there? I don't know. I'm getting kind of dizzy. I think I'm floating off into the ether. So anyway, I don't know if that helped anybody, other than to say the only message I really have is that you shouldn't be worried about being anywhere other than where you are. Everything's right on time, even if it doesn't feel like it is, even if that is the most annoying thing to hear. You're doing exactly what you need to be doing wherever you are, because this is all for everybody. It's all headed that direction. And the less you can be afraid, the less you can spend time in anxiety and fear, the faster you get there. The faster you get there. And I just hope that nothing I say here ever makes anybody feel afraid, because there's nothing to be afraid of. So, all right, I'll stop that there. Have a great day.